Dream of the Red Chamber, Chapter 20.
The chapter moves from this, lighthearted literary banter straight into a crisis.
It really does, and that contrast is everything. Just before it all explodes, you have Bao Yu, Dayu, and Bao Chai having this very sophisticated, playful conversation.
Right, they're debating literary illusions like the green wax.
Yeah, the classical reference to, pure and virtuous behavior.
And Dayu is teasing Bao Yu, calling him the rat demon.
Which is just her classic way of satirizing his tendency to cause a little bit of trouble wherever he goes. It's affectionate, but it's pointed.
And Bao Yu was just happy because he thinks the conversation is keeping Dayu from sleeping too soon after eating, good for her health. It's a perfect, calm little moment.
A moment of high culture meeting domestic care. And then it shatters.
A violent shout erupts from Bao Yu's chambers, and suddenly the hierarchy just crashes down on everyone. We go from the intellectual games of the masters to the raw, frankly terrifying power struggles of the servants.
This is the sound of the old guard fighting back.
So let's unpack this first clash. The moment the noise starts, Dayu knows exactly who it is.
Instantly.
It's Bao Yu's old wet nurse, Li Momo, and his primary and favorite maid, Shiren.
And Dayu, always so sharp, she jokes that if the nurse is taking it this seriously, she must be old and senile.
Which immediately tells you how low the nurse's status has fallen among the younger generation. Bao Yu, of course, he wants to rush in.
But Bao Chai, ever the pragmatist, she wisely pulls him back. She knows fighting the nurse is, it's just useless. She's too emotional.
You have to yield to her age, to her history, even if her actual authority is basically gone.
Exactly.
And the confrontation itself is just vicious. Li Momo is there, leaning on her cane and just screaming at Jiren.
The language is shocking. She calls her a little slut who forgot her roots, a fox spirit.
So the core accusation isn't about, a specific mistake. It's about status.
Absolutely. The nurse is basically saying Jiren is using seduction to take control of Bao Yu, which is a direct challenge to the nurse's own, quasi-maternal authority. She's being replaced.
And she issues this terrifying threat, a career killer. She reminds Jiren she's just a purchase maid who could easily be paired off with a young man.
Which means married off and banished from the inner chambers. For a favored maid like Jiren, that's professional ruin. It's the ultimate weapon.
Jiren tries to defend herself with simple facts. She says, she was sick, just starting to sweat and covered up. She genuinely didn't see the nurse come in.
But this is where it stops being about etiquette and becomes a tragedy of displacement.
So why does the nurse just ignore that? If she was really sick, why does that not matter?
Because the nurse's anger isn't about today. It's about her own obsolescence. She starts crying, lamenting that she nursed Bao Yu, she gave him life, but now that he doesn't need her milk, he just casts her aside.
And lets the maids push her around. She's fighting for her past relevance.
Her entire identity was built on that physical service. The second that ended, her authority started to dissolve.
So she has to justify this rage by dragging up this whole history of slights.
Precisely. She brings up the tea incident, the dismissal of another maid, Shazia, and then she mentions yesterday's soft cheese, the Sulo.
Okay, we have to pause on the soft cheese. What's that about?
So Sulo was a luxury, an expensive dairy product served only to the highest-ranking elders and, Bao Yu's inner circle. The fact that the nurse remembers this specific incident...
Bao Yu giving it to Jiren.
Exactly. It shows she is meticulously tracking every single sign of Jiren's elevated status and viewing each one as a personal theft of her own dignity.
Not a shouting match. It's an audit of Jiren's privileges. And then Bao Yu, of course, makes it worse.
So much worse.
He tries to vouch for Jiren's illness, which just makes the nurse angrier. She screams, "You only protect those foxes. How could you recognize me?"
She correctly identifies that Bao Yu's protection is the source of the whole conflict. She can't attack him directly.
So she attacks his favorite.
And then she goes for broke. She threatens to report everything, the negligence, the insolence, all of it, to the matriarch and the mistress.
She appeals to the ultimate authorities. The situation is about to completely blow up.
Yeah.
And right then, like a deus ex machina, in walks the ultimate conflict resolution expert.
Wang Sifeng, Zhengji.
The general manager of the entire household. Cunning, ruthless, efficient.
And what's crucial, what the sources tell us, is that she'd just finished settling her gambling accounts and, importantly, she had lost money.
Oh, so she was already in a foul mood.
She was ready to transfer her anger onto the first available target, so she doesn't arrive as some, moral arbiter. She arrives like an irritated CEO who needs to eliminate a bottleneck.
Does she even address who is right or wrong?
Not at all. She doesn't care who started it. She just cares that it stops right now before it upsets the matriarch and makes her look bad.
So what's her move?
It's a masterclass. First, she flatters the nurse, calls her good mama, validating her history.
Then she appeals to the rules. Her rules, public order. She reminds the nurse not to cause a scene during the festive period.
She uses the matriarch's happiness as a hammer. And then she couples that with basically distraction and bribery.
The hot roasted pheasant.
The hot roasted pheasant and wine at her own residence. She physically pulls the nurse away. He doesn't offer to solve the problem. She offers a better reward for being silent.
And she delegates perfectly, telling her own maid to carry the nurse's things.
It's masterful. It makes the nurse's removal seem complete and dignified. The sources say her foot not touching the ground as she's swept away, still complaining, but powerless.
Powerless against Fengji's momentum. Daiyu and Baochai are laughing. They call her a gust of wind.
But Baiyu sighs. He says the nurse always picks on the soft ones, suggesting she was taking out her anger on Jiren because she was an easy target.
A safe target.
The safest, most visible target of Baiyu's favor, and therefore the one with the most to lose. She knew attacking Jiren would cause the most chaos.
But even with the nurse gone, the crisis isn't over. Jiren is still crying.
And this is where we get into the really complex politics of the inner chamber, the cost of being the favorite.
What does she say?
Jiren's anxiety here is so insightful. She tells Baiyu that his constant, aggressive defense of her is the real problem. It's causing him to offend not just the old retainers like the nurse, but these others.
Her peers, the other maid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She has this deep, genuine fear that in the long run, when real trouble comes, a hump, as she calls it, she'll be the one to suffer the consequences of his protection.
She sees his love as a liability.
It absolutely is. Her privileged position puts a constant spotlight on her. She's being scrutinized by everyone who wants what she has. She's trying to protect herself from the envy that his defense creates.
And Baiyu, to his credit, he sets aside his temper. He actually cares for her, feeding her medicinal broth. It's a very intimate, devoted moment.
But that devotion is a spark for the next fire. While Baiyu is sighing about the nurse picking on the soft ones, Kingwin is standing right there.
Another major maid, known for her sharp tongue.
And she delivers this unbelievably pointed line.
What does she say? It cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it?
She says, "Who would be crazy enough to offend her? But even if they did, they should have the courage to take responsibility, not drag others down."
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that. That's not subtle.
Not at all. It's the resentment of the B team. Kingwin is flat out accusing Jiren of hiding behind Baiyu, exploiting his protection, and creating conflicts that everyone else has to suffer through.
So Siren gets the benefits, but when the chaos happens, Kingwin and the others are trapped in that same stressful environment.
Exactly. Kingwin is voicing the collective jealousy and fury. It shows that, Shifin could manage the external threat, but the internal rivalries, they are perfectly intact.
The micropolitics are just relentless. Which brings us to the evening. And this quiet transition that really highlights the next generation.
Right. Baiyu comes back from dinner. Jiren is sleeping. And we need to notice who is missing. All the other principal maids, Kingwin, all of them, they've gone off to gamble and play.
They're blowing off steam after a stressful day.
But one maid remains. Shiyu, Musk Moon. She's sitting alone, playing cards by lamplight.
And Baiyu asks her why she didn't go join the fun.
And her answer is like a perfect management checklist. Someone has to watch the house, especially with Jiren sick. The room is hot. The other maids deserved a break. She's demonstrating this incredible protective instinct.
She's essentially doing Shiren's job while Jiren can't.
And
Baiyu sees it immediately. He smiles and says, lo and behold, another Jiren.
That is a critical line. It instantly establishes Shiyu as a potential heir, the calm, reliable alternative to the more volatile Kingwin.
And this leads to that quiet, intimate moment of trust. He offers to comb her hair, Baitu, because she mentioned her head was itchy.
It's so tender and unguarded. And in this context, that act of combing her hair, it confirms his growing reliance and affection for her. Any maid sharing that level of physical intimacy is signaling a rise in status.
But of course, that kind of intimacy can't last long without being exposed.
And here comes the inevitable interruption. Kingwin bursts back in, needing money for gambling.
And she sees them. And she just delivers this cutting, jealous line designed to embarrass both of them.
She says, "Oh, you haven't drunk the wedding cup yet, but you're already combing hair."
A direct reference to wedding rituals. I mean, she's basically accusing them of impropriety.
Of premature intimacy. It's an attempt to sabotage Shei's moment of favor. Baiyu tries to tease her to diffuse it, but she's too angry.
She comes right back. demanding to know if they were talking about her,
Oh,
becasing them of secret plots.
And that just shows it all right. Shifeng can manage the external chaos with power and bribes, but the real, genuine rivalries, the ones between Shi and Qingwen, they are constantly bubbling, kept alive by Bao Yu's own affection.
This magnificent enclosed world, it's the Grandview Garden, built for the Jia family's highborn women.
And their favored sons.
Right. And it's the first lunar month, so it's a time of forced quiet. Studies are paused. Even needlework is forbidden. So what happens when you bottle up all this high-stakes emotional drama, this fierce social hierarchy, and just deep family resentment, and then you make everyone play parlor games?
You get a pressure cooker moment.
Yeah.
You really do. It gives us the perfect chance to put a microscope on what you could call the micropolitics of the household.
Micropolitics.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, just beneath this perfect surface of refinement and wealth, all the intense power dynamics and the emotional complexity are playing out. Something as simple as a game of dice can just trigger an absolute explosion.
And almost every major faction today, aren't we? We've got the central romantic pair, Bao Yu and Lin Daiyu, of course.
Yeah.
But we also see Bao Chai kind of the perfect peacekeeper.
Trying to manage things, yeah.
Trying to manage the conflict between the legitimate son's world and the real bitterness of Bao Yu's half-brother Jia Huan.
And then the cleanup. The truly terrifying, politically surgical authority of Wang Shifeng, or Feng Ji, who just swoops in.
So the fuse is lit over this game, rushing checkers. It sounds so harmless.
It does. But the stakes are set at 10 coins per layer. And Jia Han, the younger, illegitimate half-brother, he's the son of the concubine, Zhao Yinyang. He's playing with Bao Chai, Shang Ling, and a maid, Yinger.
And he actually wins once, which must have felt like a huge victory for him. But then the tide just turns. He starts losing,
Yeah.
and losing fast.
And this is where you see the immediate split between, let's say, monetary stakes and psychological stakes.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 coins is nothing for a master in the Jia house.
It's his pocket change.
Exactly. But for Jia Huan, who is just constantly desperate for validation, winning and losing is an existential war for status. So he gets to this crucial moment. He needs 7 points to win the round. He throws the dice.
And he gets a 5 and a 1.
A single point? Ah.
He just snaps. He immediately tries to cheat, yelling 6, 7, 8, and grabs a dice to hide them.
Yeah.
The humiliation is just, you can feel it.
And who calls him out? It's not Bao Chai who has the status to do it.
Yeah.
It's Yimmer, the low-status maid. She just says, no, it was clearly a 1, and this is the moment where the hierarchy has to reassert itself.
And it's Bao Chai who steps in.
Immediately.
But she doesn't scold the cheater. She scolds the accuser.
Exactly. Bao Chai's response is lightning fast. She just turns on Yinger and says, the older you get, the less proper you are. Would a young master cheat you? It's a brilliant, ruthless move.
It really is.
Because it defends Jia Huan's official status as a young master, even as a concubine's son, while making sure the lower status character is just completely silenced. Yinger can't argue back. The truth just vanishes under the sheer weight of the class structure.
But the maid still gets the last quiet word in, doesn't she? She mutters this crucial complaint under her breath, comparing Jia Huan to Bao Yu. She says that when the real master, Bao Yu, lost, he would just laugh and let the little maidservants grab the leftover money.
And that comparison is so vital for you as the listener to grasp. Bao Yu treats the game as pure fun, a distraction. Jia Huan treats it as this zero-sum battle for his own validation. And once he's been exposed, even just by a maid, he plays the only card he has left.
He starts crying, hysterically.
He does, and he yells the one truth that governs his entire life. He accuses everyone of favoring Bao Yu and says they bully me because I am not the Qi.
I am not the wife's legitimate son. Can you explain just how crushing that is in this world?
Oh, it's everything. It is absolutely everything. In this world, the son of the Te, the principal wife, he gets the prestige, the resources, the unquestioned authority. The son of a concubine is, well, he's a second-class citizen forever.
Living on the margins.
Completely.
Yeah.
And even if they're treated well, that status is so fragile. It depends on the whim of the legitimate family. So Jia Huan's outburst isn't just a tantrum over a few coins. It's him screaming about the psychological oppression he faces every single day. The game was just the detonator.
This breakdown just perfectly sets the stage for Bao Yu's arrival. He walks in, sees the crying, and Bao Chai, the traditionalist, she immediately tries to cover for Jia Huan.
Right, because she knows the normal rule. The younger brother is supposed to fear the elder.
But their relationship is anything but normal.
Not at all, because we run straight into Bao Yu's deeply philosophical and completely counterintuitive worldview, what the text calls his stupid idea, his light dar.
So tell us more about this stupid idea.
Yeah.
What is it that lets him just completely sidestep the traditional role of the authoritarian older brother?
Well, his idea is profoundly radical for a patriarchal society. Bao Yu grew up surrounded by these brilliant, beautiful women in the garden, and he's basically concluded that the true, refined essence of nature, of mountains and rivers, it only gathers in daughters.
And what about men?
He sees all mustached men, including his brother and critically himself, as just slag and scum. He sees men as fundamentally turbid, chaotic things.
So if he thinks all men are basically worthless, he can't possibly take his role as the legitimate male heir seriously.
Precisely. His own authority is completely self-negated. The only reason he listens to his father or his uncles is because of Confucius. Confucius is the first man in the universe and demands respect, but every other man,
Including his brother.
they're all equally flawed in his eyes, so he sees no reason to act as a role model, a head, for Jie Huan.
That structural detachment is so key. It means Ji Huan doesn't fear him as an older brother, but he still resents him for his privilege.
Exactly. And Bao Yu's response to the crying boy just reflects that detachment. It's not authoritative advice, it's philosophical. He basically tells Jie Huan that since the game isn't fun anymore, he should just leave. Go find joy somewhere else instead of staying here and crying.
It's advice about personal contentment, not social discipline.
It's almost a kind of spiritual withdrawal from the whole worldly conflict.
Which, of course, does nothing to solve Jie Huan's actual pain. He's left with the sting of being caught, the humiliation, and this non-committal philosophy from his brother.
So Jie Huan, still stinging, he goes back to his mother, Zhao Yinyang, probably expecting some comfort. Instead, we see the tragic flaw of her status play out all over again.
Zhao Yinyang's reaction is so harsh, but what's crucial is that she reinforces his shame. She doesn't challenge the system at all.
Absolutely not. She doesn't address the cheating or the unfairness of the hierarchy. Instead, she just rips into him. She calls him a shameless, low-class thing for daring to go up to the high platform, the metaphorical high ground where the legitimate family plays.
She's shaming him for even aspiring to a higher status. She's telling him to know his place.
Know your place. And this is where the true master of household authority, Wang Shifeng, steps in. She overhears this whole thing from outside the window and immediately asserts control.
Feng Ji's intervention is just a masterclass in politically astute control, isn't it? It's so efficient and ruthless.
It is. She immediately puts Zhao Yinyang in her place, reminds her that the master and madame are the ones who discipline Jie Huan. It is not Zhao Yinyang's job to spit on him, because he is still officially a master of fun.
So she uses the opportunity to not just discipline Jie Huan, but to put her political rival, Zhao Yinyang, firmly back in her box.
Yes, and then her approach to Jie Huan himself is just terrifying because it's so calculated. She doesn't just scold him for cheating. She accuses him of being taught crooked-minded, malicious, vixen-like behavior.
Which is a direct shot at his mother.
It's a direct, if unstated, accusation. She's crushing the son while blaming the source.
What's so fascinating is how she immediately switches from that psychological warfare to this overwhelming display of financial power.
It's the perfect demonstration of ruling class dominance, right? Jie Huan admits he lost 100 or 200 coins, which is a tiny sum. Feng Ji scolds him for being a master and acting so badly over so little, and then...
She gives him more money than he lost.
Far more. She gives him one string of cash. And in doing that, she's using money to reassert his status. The message is, you are a young master. You should be indifferent to this. If you worry about this, you're proving you have a low-class character.
And the ultimate political threat comes next. She frames this whole incident not as his minor cheat, but as this huge disruption that she, and only she, has managed to cover up.
She warns him that if he continues being low-class and vixen-like, she will personally beat him, send word to the academy, the ultimate threat of public shame, and then she delivers the knockout blow.
The line about Bao Yu.
She claims that Bao Yu is already furious and would have kicked his guts out if she hadn't stopped him.
Which is incredible, because we just established that Bao Yu is philosophically incapable of that kind of aggression.
You would never. He wouldn't. Feng Ji is just using Bao Yu's high status and the family's fear of a legitimate heir as a political weapon against Jie Huan. She's fabricating a story about Bao Yu's terrifying anger to showcase her own power as the only one who can control it.
Okay, so we've seen this external, monetary, physically threatened conflict completely resolved by Feng Ji's ruthless efficiency. Now let's shift completely into the internal, agonizing, purely emotional conflict between Bao Yu and Dai Yu.
If Feng Ji operates on the external surface, this next bit shows us the crushing intensity of internal control.
And the catalyst for this romantic drama is almost comically small.
It is. It's so characteristic of their relationship. Bao Yu rushes off for a moment to greet Xi Shangyun when she arrives, and Bao Chai just happens to walk with him. That's it. That brief absence is enough to trigger Lin Daiyu's profound insecurity.
When he gets back to her, she's immediately cold. She uses sarcasm like a weapon. I said so. Something must have tripped him up. Otherwise, he would have flown here already.
And she immediately withdraws, saying she wishes she were dead and asks why he even cares. He follows her, trying to soothe her with 1,000 kinds of gentle words, but she just cuts him off.
Right. She accuses him of preferring others who are more skilled at reciting, writing, and joking than she is. This isn't really about his absence, is it?
Not at all. It's about her perceived inadequacy and her jealousy, specifically of the emotionally stable Bao Chai.
So to try and defuse this emotional bomb, Bao Yu attempts to use logic, family structure, the one thing he knows Dai Yu respects intellectually, even if he rejects it himself.
He uses this very formal declaration of relations. Kinship does not separate the close. The first does not precede the latter.
He's basically trying to intellectualize this raw, painful emotion.
He's trying to argue mathematically that she's closer to him than anyone else. He points out their paternal aunt-maternal uncle-cousins, a core blood relation. Bao Chai, in contrast, is just a mother's sister's daughter.
He's laying out a kinship chart and saying, look, structurally, you're the most important person to me, so stop worrying. But she doesn't care about the chart.
Not one bit. She rejects the entire argument. She says, I only care for my heart.
And this is a breakthrough moment.
It is. It's where Bao Yu realizes the only way to communicate with her is to match that emotional intensity. So he responds in kind, I also care for my heart. They're not fighting over who's right anymore. They're fighting over the nature of their feelings for each other.
And then we get this incredible piece of physical evidence that this emotional state is real and mutually destructive.
The detail about the cloak is fantastic. Dai Yu notices that he's taken off his fur-lined cloak, his Nang Ai, even though it's the cold first lunar month. He says he got fiery hatsa from her anger.
So her emotional state doesn't just bother him, it physically affects him.
It physically, psychosomatically affects him, causing him to sweat. Her internal turmoil becomes external heat in him. This bond is literally exhausting for them.
And while they're recovering from this, Xi Jianyun walks in, complaining that the two of them are so wrapped up in each other they ignore her.
Dai Yu, still tense, immediately redirects all that tension into this sharp humor, mocking Shang Yun's speech impediment, her whole game. She points out that Shang Yun pronounces Jie, second brother, as Ajej, love brother.
Zhang Yan, though, she's quick. She fires right back, accusing Dai Yu of always picking flaws in others, and then she issues a challenge that links this joke right back to the central drama.
She says, you dare pick Bao Chai's fault, and I will submit to you.
Which is a direct hit. Everyone knows Dai Yu's jealousy is about Bao Chai. But Bao Chai's reputation is so perfect, so unassailable, that Dai Yu can't criticize her without exposing her own envy.
So she just dismisses it immediately. How dare I pick her faults?
And the segment closes with Shang Yin delivering this final, hilarious, and just, perfectly cutting punchline.
She delivers this provocative prayer. She prays that Dai Yu will marry a husband who also lisps, so she can hear A and E all day long. It's this moment of comic relief that just cuts right to the core of Dai Yu's insecurity.